again, we have Esper Control, piloted by David Vo against Bernado Fonseca, playing Mono Black Devotion. And we saw game one, David win the Esper way with just a grindy game, setting up multiple Sphinx's Revelations. We saw Bernardo win game two in a Mono Black way, which was a bunch of discard spells and Underworld connections. Now we'll see what happens in the third game.
Duress is going to show you Far Away, Elspeth, Jace, Devour Flesh, Hero's Downfall to go along with a Temple of Deceit and a Hallowed Fountain. Powerful stuff right there.
Although, again, this is a hand with no real protection against Underworld connections. And I like taking Jace here, assuming that Bernardo has some way to generate card advantage. You see the Underworld connections.
There's a Temple.
You're totally fine with David sitting with a bunch of creature removal spells in his hand as long as he's not generating card advantage, because connections just overwhelms that over the long term.
Yep. That's the primary goal. Can you resolve Underworld connections?
Cedric is not coming into my headset.
Got Bernardo. Plays a Swamp. Aetherling is the draw. Hallowed Fountain, Island, the options here for David.
So here's potentially a window now for Bernardo to resolve one of his sources of card advantage.
I think you got to take the chance if you can. There's a Lifebane Zombie.
He's going to see if the coast is clear first, and it is.
Yeah, we know that Lifebane is going to die, obviously. There's a bevy of ways to kill it. So, looks like we're going to see the away half here of Far and Away from David to take care of the Lifebane Zombie. So we'll see if David actually able to like spike a card like a Dissolve or something here. Just a Godless Shrine.
Yeah, no protection, unfortunately, for David.
There's connections, so good to go.
It's a really good opening for Bernardo, of course.
Yeah, I mean, this is ideally how you want to start things off. You draw some cards, use your life, obviously, because your life total is not going to be under duress from basically anything. As there's a Godless Shrine, draw a card, go down to 19. So this is exactly what Mono Black Devotion wants to accomplish, and Bernardo is doing it.
And you've seen a lot of Esper and blue-white lists move to having some copies of the Exile, Enchantment, or Artifact card.
Oh, Revoke Existence.
Revoked Existence. Yeah. And this is a place where it stands out that David does not have access to it, as he's really susceptible to Underworld connections and Erebos.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because, like, you know, his deck has basically everything else. So,
yes,
you know, he can't fit every single card he wants. You know, he's got a lot of spot removal. He's got some counter magic, revs. You know, just two win conditions. He's got elixir, stuff like that. So, you know, he's got a smattering of everything, except for a card like Revoke Existence. You know, he's really obviously relying on Detention Sphere, as these decks are aching to do.
Yeah.
See Connections activation here. A Needle in the grip now. Desecration Demon as well. I think it might be time to deploy the 6/6 flyer. Again, it's all about trading resources at this point, in my opinion, especially when you have connections and your opponent doesn't have a card drawing engine. You know, you just try to run them out of resources because you are the one that's actually seeing more cards a turn. We'll get confirmation on what Needle is naming in a moment, and it's naming Aetherling.
In front of him, you will see this. It is a basket. The front is blue. It says.
So I think, given the fact that Aetherling has been named, you can almost just kind of run it out there. It would die. And you do have answers to Needle, of course, but I think you can actually make a reasonable argument for just running it out there.
Well, I actually kind of like playing Elspeth here because I'm not exactly sure what else David's hand allows him to do. I understand there's a very good chance that it just dies, as it does here to Hero's Downfall.
Yeah.
But there's not, you know, he's behind the gun with Underworld connections here, and he doesn't have Revelations in his hand. He doesn't really have anything powerful going on. There's a chance there that Elspeth actually could just steal the game.
Sure.
And so I like the attempt by David there to make it happen, but Bernardo was ready with the Hero's Downfall.
Connections activation going to knock Bernardo down to 17. Looks like we got a Desecration Demon in the house. Take a draw. Watery Grave. You see Hero's Downfall, Hollow Fountain, Aetherling that has been struck by a Pithing Needle, and then that Hero's Downfall.
And this is definitely a game that can get turned around by Sphinx's Revelation for as grim as it looks for David right now.
Definitely don't want to have to clean up any.
This is a very aggressive line here from David, which is Hero's Downfall. Take care of obviously Desecration Demon. Fire at Mutavault, get in for 5 points of damage. Let kind of the race start here. I kind of like it.
Well, against Underworld Connections, you have to tax his life total somehow.
Yeah.
David's not in a position to sit on his hands, so he's got to do something.
You see one Gray Merchant. There's actually another one in Bernardo's hand, so he can undo that. I think he's got 3, maybe. He can actually undo this pretty well and also create a big roadblock.
All right, guys.
See a drain for 4 here through Gray Merchant and Connections.
Supreme Verdict.
All right, my name is CJ Schrader. I am assisted by many lovely judges.
It's really funny how in game 1, the Mono Black Devotion deck has so many dead cards in it, all the creature removal spells. And then in the post-board games, it almost feels like the Esper deck is the one with the not necessarily dead cards, but situational cards. Supreme Verdict can be good in some games, but certainly no guarantee. Same thing with Elspeth and Aetherling. You know, the only cards that seem really guaranteed to be good are Jace and Sphinx's Revelation. The Mono Black deck is much more surgical. Everything is good.
Yeah, it does feel that way.
And C, please.
So bye-bye goes the token.
Right corner of your deck list, put the table number of the table you're sitting at right now. So, name on the front, fill it out waiver on the back.
Is David planning on using his Supreme Verdict here?
I'll give you guys about 60 seconds.
That's what the attack kind of indicates.
It's possible.
Verify that you've registered at least 60 cards.
It's not exciting, obviously.
No more than 15 cards in your sideboard.
I could certainly see just dropping down Aetherling right now, too, and just not overvaluing it, especially when I believe he has Elixir in his deck. I mean, like, we know he has it in his deck list. I think he would leave it in this matchup. And he's just going to pass the turn back. Does not fire off a Verdict. Doesn't fire off Aetherling either. Connections activation, going to knock Bernado down to 12.
I'm looking for Tan and Grace. And Griff
I believe Bernardo has just found Erebos.
I believe that's the case. The God of the Dead.
And that Erebos Nykthos thing we were joking about actually might be in play this game.
Yes, 5 activations in 1 turn. Give it to me. I want to see it.
so a judge can give you one.
There's Erebos.
Great.
And it is active,
All right.
which you don't see a ton. Yeah, now you get this for 5 mana and Gray Merchant. We are doing it. 2, 4, 6, 7 point ball. And now attack for 2.
Make mistakes, and judges will be here to help
I love what I see.
So this is setting the table for Supreme Verdict to do a little bit of work, but again, it's still not a long-term solution to all the cards that Bernardo is able to draw.
Yeah.
call loudly for a judge. Then a judge will come help you because that's what they're here for. Don't just trust your opponent because your opponent lies to you like all the time. Make sure
So after the drain and gain and the attack and everything of that nature, the dust settles. You've got Vo at 7 and underneath the gun in a big way. Now he does have Verdict in his hand, of course. He can clear some things up, but Erebos will still be there, obviously, along with Underworld Connections, threatening for Devotion again and again and again.
if you are not already in your seat, you will be receiving a
Vo will draw a card to the Detention Sphere. That's a huge draw.
visible hustle.
When combined with the Supreme Verdict, it actually clears up a lot of the bad stuff that's going on in play.
That's a huge
You will
draw.
have to talk to us if you want to re-enter the event.
I suppose the interesting question is, what do you sphere?
I think that you had to sphere. I feel like you had to sphere Erebos.
I think you do too.
because there's the threat of it turning back on, and also Bernardo has enough life to play with that he could be drawing multiple cards in a turn in theory. I mean, if it's just his Underworld Connections against your nothing, then again, we're in a spot where Sphinx's Revelation can catch him all the way up.
Ooh.
David going down a different path here. This
He's
feels
gonna
very
take
risky
Noodle.
to me. As
Yeah, he's going to take down the Needle.
Guys, I want you all to have a lot of fun.
I agree with you on the risk.
For round 1 very soon.
Connections activation.
Until then, oh, Deck.
Because it's just so likely that Erebos' Devotion gets turned on here.
See what the draw is. Pack Rat.
And there it is.
Actual number of players before round 1.
Yeah, Pack Rat plus an activation actually turns it on right away.
Okay. We have one best.
See if he takes that route.
Again, for those of you not up to speed on all the nuances of Standard, Pack Rat's tokens, unlike most tokens, actually have a converted mana cost of black and colorless because it makes an exact copy of Pack Rat. So it is a Devotion enabler.
Which is frustrating beyond belief.
It's like we are making a... I don't know if we're activating Nykthos or just making a lot of
It
mana.
looks like we're just making a Pack Rat. Yeah, and so now There will be 5 devotion out there. 1 from each pack rat, 2 from Underworld Connections, 1 for Erebos itself. In we go for 5. Vo's going to go down to 2. And Vo, all he has in his hand is an Aetherling. And if it's not a good draw right now, it's over. We saw him top deck once. And that's it.
There it is.
Bernardo Fonseca does win your standard open. Mono Black Devotion is back on top.